There is a specific quiet celebration that echoes across civilization, a ceremony of applause reserved not for the victor, but for the vanquished. Observe any group dynamic, any corporate structure, any family gathering, and you will quickly realize that while success is acknowledged, it is sacrifice that is genuinely glorified. We reserve our deepest reverence, our most emotional tributes, for the person who gave something essential up. The CEO who forfeited their youth for the company, the parent who abandoned their dreams for the sake of the children, the artist who starved for the purity of their craft. Society holds them up as monuments, not of achievement, but of self-abnegation. And we ask ourselves, why? Why does the human collective feel such a profound, almost spiritual need to sanctify loss, as to elevate the compromise of the individual self into the highest moral good? This fascination with martyrdom, this unwavering glorification of the person who kneels before the needs of the collective, is not a simple matter of morality. It is a profound psychic mechanism, a required ritual for the survival of the group, and Carl Jung saw it playing out beneath the surface of every human institution. Jung understood that society is fundamentally terrified of the fully realized individual. The person who is whole, who has integrated their shadow, that messy, chaotic, powerful side of their nature, is unpredictable, autonomous, and ungovernable. They are dangerous because their loyalty is to their own inner truth, their own process of individuation, not to the collective narrative. The man who refuses to sacrifice his most vital energies to the system is a walking critique of everyone who complied. He is the living proof that autonomy was possible, that the heavy, gold-plated chains of duty were optional. And so, society must neutralize this threat. It cannot eliminate him, but it must make his path appear tragic, lonely, or morally deficient. How do we achieve this neutralization? By glorifying the opposite choice, by calling the suppression of the self virtue, by labeling the burial of one's deepest potential love, and by declaring that true fulfillment is found only in serving the comfort and stability of others. We turn sacrifice into a prerequisite for respect, ensuring that everyone pays the required psychic tribute. Look closely at the language we use to praise the pillars of our community. We don't just say they are competent, we say they are tireless. We don't just say they are kind, we say they are selfless. The highest compliment we can bestow is to acknowledge the sheer quantity of self they have subtracted from their own lives in service of the group. We celebrate the diminished person precisely because the diminished person is safe. The sacrificed self poses no threat to the established order, harbors no radical, unconstrained energy, and asks no dangerous questions about the road not taken. Jung posited that the development of the human consciousness requires constant friction between the needs of the ego, the individual self, and the demands of the persona, the mask worn for society. Sacrifice is the ultimate surrender of the ego to the persona. It is the public signing of a contract stating, "My inner, wild, inconvenient truth is less important than your comfort." And the collective sighs in relief, because one more powerful energy source has been safely domesticated. They reward this domestication with honor, ensuring that the next generation sees the cage door labeled success. This process is universal. It transcends borders, economies, and political systems. It is the invisible spiritual gravity that pulls us all toward conformity. It affects the quiet man in the suburban home, the high-powered executive in the skyscraper, and the artist choosing commercial viability over uncompromising truth. The struggle against this societal pressure is the most profound challenge of individuation. Tell me, what great city is witnessing this silent battle right now? Name the location where this universal script is being played out. Why, the city whose high towers and quiet avenues are filled with souls who have traded their fire for comfort and are now being rewarded for their surrender. Tell us the city that needs to hear this truth today. The foundation of society's obsession with sacrifice lies in the nature of the individual's shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is not merely evil. It is everything the ego rejects about itself. It contains all the unlived life, the massive potential, the desires deemed socially unacceptable, the raw ambition, the untamed sexual energy, the revolutionary spirit. Society's glorification of sacrifice is fundamentally a collective demand that you deny and repress this powerful shadow. When a man sacrifices his career path for stability, he is burying his shadow of ambition. When a woman sacrifices her independence for the structure of a relationship, she is burying her shadow of autonomy. The collective is deeply invested in this burial because that repressed energy, if released, is truly destabilizing. Imagine an entire generation simultaneously deciding to pursue their terrifying, uncompromised truths, regardless of social expectation. Civilization, as we know it, would crumble overnight. The established networks of dependence, control, and predictability would shatter. Therefore, society doesn't just encourage sacrifice. It manufactures the conditions that make refusal feel unbearable. It creates a constant moral fog where the pursuit of self-interest feels selfish and the commitment to one's own individuation feels like a betrayal. This is the ultimate psychic manipulation, making you believe that the abandonment of your own core is actually the highest form of love or duty. Jung argued that true psychological health, individuation, requires integrating the shadow, bringing the unlived life into conscious experience. But society demands the opposite. It demands the sacrifice of the shadow. It requires you to keep that immense potential locked away, lest it disrupt the carefully maintained peace. We become accustomed to living a half-life, a diminished existence, but we are consoled by the praise of the collective. Look how good he is. Look how much he gave up. The consequence of this mandated self-sacrifice is a pervasive, simmering resentment. The man who has buried his shadow for the sake of his community becomes perpetually bitter toward those who retained theirs. He envies the authentic, chaotic energy he had to deny himself. This envy manifests as moral judgment. We label the unconstrained individual, the artist who prioritizes their work, the traveler who chooses experience over settlement, the thinker who refuses dogma, as reckless, irresponsible, or immature. We must cast judgment upon them because their continued autonomy is a constant reminder of the psychic murder we committed against ourselves. The glorification of sacrifice serves another critical purpose. It makes the system appear just. If sacrifice is the highest virtue, then those who suffer the most must be the most virtuous. This justifies all manner of structural inequalities and personal miseries. When a system is inherently unfair, the easiest way to manage discontent is not to fix the system, but to redefine suffering as nobility. We stop asking why someone had to give up everything, and instead, we celebrate the fact that they did. This psychological sleight of hand transforms systemic failure into personal heroism. Consider the archetype of the hero in mythology. Often, the hero must complete a sacrifice, whether literal or symbolic, to transition from the known world to the unknown. But in the mythological context, the sacrifice is often a temporary shedding necessary for a greater transformation. The hero returns changed and more whole. Society, however, demands a permanent, uncompensated sacrifice. It demands the shedding of the self without the promise of individuation. It demands the hero stay in the dark forest and never come home. The deepest, most insidious aspect of this glorification is that we internalize it. We learn to love our chains. We begin to genuinely believe that the person we could have become, the person residing in our shadow, was fundamentally unworthy or dangerous. We mistake the absence of friction for fulfillment. When we look in the mirror, we are proud not of what we achieved, but of what we willingly refused to pursue. We confuse stability with meaning, and we become the zealous enforcers of the same code of self-denial against others. The man who sacrificed his creative path will subtly, perhaps unconsciously, discourage his children from taking creative risks. He has paid his psychological tax, and now everyone else must pay theirs too, on ensuring the stability of the collective lie. This isn't about blaming the collective. It is about recognizing the primal forces at play. Jung gave us the tools to analyze these forces. He showed us that the collective unconscious favors inertia, predictability, and the status quo. The individual, striving for the dizzying height of wholeness, is always fighting uphill against the gravitational pull of the tribe. Sacrifice is the collective's offer. Surrender your climb, and we will make you comfortable here at the base of the mountain, and we will applaud your humility. The individual must continually ask, what am I sacrificing right now in exchange for social approval? And is that approval worth the permanent burial of my vital energy? What parts of my true self, my terrifying, beautiful, unconstrained shadow, have I publicly declared dead, only to have the collective celebrate the funeral? The moment of truth arrives when you realize that the cage is not external. The cage is the deeply held belief that you are only worthy of praise after you have given up your autonomy. Society glorifies sacrifice because sacrifice is the voluntary disarming of the single greatest threat to its order, the fully individuated soul. Now, it is time for a radical act of self-commitment. The first step toward breaking free from the glorification of sacrifice is naming the price you paid. Drop your truth in the comments immediately. Write the definitive statement that encapsulates your realization about this societal script. Use the phrase, I see the script and I refuse the price. This is not just a comment. It is a declaration of independence for your psyche. This admission holds true power, and speaking it aloud is the first necessary rupture in the fabric of the collective lie. You understand the stakes now. You are capable of an honesty most people avoid for their entire lives. Show the world that you are awake and committed to the process of individuation. Hit the like button right now because this message needs to detonate in the mind of every soul who feels their inner fire dimming under the weight of external expectations. And you must subscribe immediately. You have proven yourself ready for the deeper truths, the ones philosophy buried because they are too volatile for comfortable living. The next part of this deep dive will reveal another layer of Jungian thought, a perspective so shattering it will redefine your understanding of good and evil. Get ready for a profound shift in consciousness, a revelation that will either liberate your soul completely or disturb your sense of reality permanently. Don't risk staying asleep. Ensure you are here when that profound psychological bomb drops. Stay awake, stay honest, and claim the totality of yourself, because your own uncompromised life is the only true act of defiance against a society that demands you shrink. There's a specific kind of silence that descends on a man when he realizes the cost of the path he chose. It's not the silence of peace, but the quiet of something deeply, irrevocably finished. We started this conversation by watching the married man envy the single man, observing the surface dynamics of lost freedom. But we must now descend into the engine room of that envy, into the deep psychological structures that Carl Jung understood as the collective mechanism society uses to enforce that envy, to enforce that sacrifice, and ultimately, to enforce its own stability. This is where the simple exchange of freedom for love curdles into something far more complex and far more terrifying. This is the place where the sacrifice becomes sanctified, not for the benefit of the individual soul, but for the maintenance of the city gates. Before we continue this descent into the unconscious roots of societal glorification, tell us where you are watching from. Name your city, because this universal human dynamic, this tension between the single self and the conforming self, plays out on every street corner, in every living room, and in the heart of every person listening right now, no matter the geography. Carl Jung knew that human civilization is built on suppressing the instinctual, the chaotic, the fundamentally wild parts of ourselves. When society glorifies sacrifice, it is not praising a virtuous act. It is celebrating successful repression. The married man, the committed man, the man who has settled down, is the poster child for this repression. He has successfully taken his boundless potential, his chaos, his unconstrained desire, his capacity for radical self-interest, and traded it for a socially approved identity. Society applauds this exchange with awards, mortgages, and respectability, because every individual who makes that trade reinforces the illusion that compromise is not merely necessary, but good. This glorification of sacrifice is the societal anesthetic, numbing the pain of the individual surrender. The very structures of our culture, from television shows to commencement speeches, are dedicated to whispering the same lie. Your greatest fulfillment is found in giving up yourself for the sake of the unit. The single man, meanwhile, is a walking, breathing contradiction of this collective mythology. He represents the unexpended potential, the energy that was never successfully channeled into the agreed-upon societal pipelines. Jung would look at the married man's deep, secret envy and instantly recognize the psychological projection of the shadow. The shadow is the part of the self that we deny, the traits and possibilities that we deem unacceptable, immoral, or simply impossible, given our current life structure. The married man suppressed his hunger for variety, his need for absolute control over his time, his capacity for spectacular failure and rebirth. These things didn't vanish, they were simply exiled to his unconscious. And when he sees the single man, the unbothered bachelor nursing his drink at the wedding, he is not just seeing another person, he is seeing his own banished self, his shadow, walking free and laughing. This is why the envy is so painful and so deeply repressed. Admitting the single man's happiness means admitting that the shadow life, the life of unbridled self-determination, was viable. It means admitting that the sacrifice, so beautifully decorated and publicly lauded, might have been unnecessary. Society, therefore, must work overtime to invalidate the single man's experience. He must be painted as lonely, immature, or afraid of commitment, or simply incomplete. This cultural necessity is not about the single man's actual happiness. It is about protecting the psychic comfort of the committed collective. If the single man is allowed to be truly content, truly fulfilled, then the entire social contract, the implicit agreement that stability requires the death of self, begins to fracture. Consider the enormous amount of energy the married man now dedicates to the maintenance of the facade. He must not only be content, but perform contentment. His language is peppered with terms like we, our, and sacrifice. He uses these words not merely descriptively, but defensively, preemptively, justifying the diminished state of his own being. Every time he recounts a story about a compromise, having to skip a major career opportunity for a spouse's move, or foregoing a spontaneous adventure for a planned vacation, he is unconsciously asking for societal reassurance. He is saying, "Look, I paid the price, and therefore I am worthy." This is the core psychological operation, transforming sacrifice into moral superiority. He doesn't envy the single man's lack of moral burden. He envies his lack of debt. The single man owes nothing to the collective narrative. His life is a perpetual state of possibility, a concept that is existentially terrifying to the committed person. The committed person, by definition, has chosen certainty over possibility. He has walled off the future, making it manageable, predictable, and therefore safe. But the price of that safety is the permanent closing of doors. He can never go back to being the person who could move across the country on a whim, who could commit to a 7-year project with zero regard for financial stability, or who could simply disappear for a month into the mountains. That person is dead, interred beneath the weight of shared responsibility. The single man, however, maintains a continuum of self. His history seamlessly transitions into his present. His ambition today is fueled by the raw energy of the person he was 5 years ago. The married man experiences a rupture. The self before the commitment often feels like an entirely separate, lost being. When the married man sees the single man, he is looking at a ghost, a version of himself that he murdered for stability. And the greatest tragedy, the Jungian horror, is that this murder was celebrated by everyone he knew. The moment he surrendered his autonomy, their society declared him an adult, responsible, and successful. He paid for the cage with his soul, and they gave him a plaque. This leads us to the crucial distinction in the glorification of sacrifice. Society doesn't glorify all sacrifice. It glorifies institutionalized sacrifice. If a single man sacrifices his time and money to create a groundbreaking work of art, society is indifferent. If he sacrifices his career for the abstract pursuit of philosophical truth, he is deemed eccentric. But if he sacrifices his personal ambition, his desires, and his absolute freedom for the sake of a conventional marriage and the creation of a family unit, he is a hero. Why? Because the latter maintains the status quo. It produces consumers, taxpayers, and predictable citizens. It perpetuates the machinery of civilization. The former, the sacrifice for pure creation or self-discovery, threatens the machinery because it models radical autonomy. The married man is trapped in a dilemma of authenticity. He knows on some deep level that he is performing a role written by the collective. He is the husband, the provider, the responsible partner. These roles are not inherently false, but they are superimposed over the individual self. The single man, by refusing the script, is forced into a relentless engagement with authenticity. He must constantly define himself, answer the existential questions alone, and forge meaning without the ready-made narrative of partnership. This self-creation, this raw process of becoming, is exactly what the married man secretly yearns for: the ability to be fully and solely responsible for his own existence, and without the soft buffer of shared blame or the easy justification of doing it for the family. The married man often justifies his diminished reality by focusing on the richness of shared experience. He argues that the depth of connection compensates for the loss of breadth of life. But Jungian analysis reveals that true depth comes from confronting the shadow, integrating the chaos, and engaging in profound individuation. The institution of marriage, as often practiced, encourages a merging, a blurring of boundaries, which, while offering comfort, often stunts individuation. The man stops facing his inner demons alone. He relies on the relationship to stabilize his neuroses, rather than resolving them internally. The single man has no such stabilizing external force. He must face the terrors of his own psyche, lying alone in his apartment at 3 a.m. That terrifying self-reliance, that relentless psychological honesty, is the true source of his hidden power and the deepest object of the married man's envy. The single man is still wrestling with his angels and demons. The married man has declared a truce in exchange for dinner reservations and shared streaming passwords. This is the psychological tax of stability. The married man paid his entrance fee into domestic tranquility, but the payment was the permanent surrender of his raw, unmediated self. He now sees the single man, not just living a different life, but living a life where the initial self, the ambitious, slightly dangerous, fully autonomous young man, was never required to die. That self simply evolved, expanded, and remained whole. And the married man looks in the mirror and sees a composite figure, a man shaped as much by external negotiation and relational necessity as by internal desire. When he sees the single man, he is confronting the terrifying question: what parts of me did I kill to become this functional, stable, respected machine? The cost is not only measured in lost spontaneity or financial freedom, but in intellectual and spiritual stagnation. Great philosophical or creative achievement often requires a ruthlessly singular focus, a kind of necessary selfishness that partnership fundamentally forbids. To be a true visionary, one must sometimes be an awful partner, a negligible friend, and a disappointing family member. The single man has the existential permit for this necessary selfishness. His time is his laboratory. His failures are his alone, and therefore his lessons are pure. The married man's time is a resource allocated by committee. His potential for radical, world-changing creation is filtered through the collective need for normalcy and stability. He traded the possibility of becoming a monumental self for the certainty of being a good husband. And society, seeing this trade, smiles. Society needs good husbands far more than it needs turbulent geniuses. Society needs stability, and stability is built on the predictable, domesticated energy of millions of men who have agreed to temper their fire, suppress their chaos, and channel their immense creative drive into the maintenance of the shared household. The glorification of sacrifice is merely the collective mind congratulating itself on another successful domestication. The married man is trapped not by chains, but by a comfort so deep, so pervasive, and so socially validated that to complain is not only ungrateful but absurd. He lives in a gilded cage of his own making, a beautiful prison built on compromise, and the only proof that the outside exists is the phantom limb ache he feels when he glimpses the single man living outside the wall. This is the depth of the deception. The sacrifice was sold as a prerequisite for happiness, but it was merely a prerequisite for fitting in. The married man is now tethered to a system of external validation. His life must look good to his neighbors, his in-laws, and his peers, because the entire structure is built on the belief that he made the right choice. The single man needs no such validation. His authenticity is its own reward, his lack of commitment, his own defiant philosophical statement. The married man understands that if he were to ever admit the full scope of his loss, the depth of the envy, the true extent of the compromise, he risks shattering the reality that sustains him. The entire narrative of his adulthood would crumble, exposing the foundational lie. So he holds the line, smiles for the cameras, and reinforces the very system that entrapped him, all the while knowing that the person he sacrificed is still out there, alive, unbothered, and free. You recognize the profound nature of this surrender. You understand the complex weight of compromise that society never discusses. Your acknowledgement of this truth is a powerful step toward reclaiming the unexpended self. We are demanding a profound honesty right now. We demand that you articulate the deepest realization sparked by this observation. Do not simply nod. Declare your understanding. Take a moment right now and comment with this precise sentence. The unlived life screams the loudest. This declaration is a vital step toward psychological freedom, separating you from the masses who refuse to confront their own suppressed shadow. Your commitment to this truth is the foundation of genuine awakening. Immediately subscribe to this channel and affirm your connection with a like. This channel is a sanctuary for those who possess the rare courage to look directly into the most dangerous philosophical truths. Your action ensures that this uncompromising message finds the others who are desperately seeking reality beneath the comfortable illusions. And listen closely, because what is coming next will complete this psychological detonation. We are about to reveal the single, core idea that defines how the culture weaponizes your deepest human instincts. It's an idea so devastatingly simple, and yet so universally suppressed that upon hearing it, you will question every foundational structure you rely on for meaning. It's the final piece of the puzzle, the truth that makes the entire mechanism of sacrifice visible. You must not miss this conclusion. Missing it means remaining bound by the invisible chains of the collective. Stay honest, stay awake, and prepare for the ultimate truth. The house is completely dark. The performance is over. He is lying beside the woman he promised forever to. And in the silence between heartbeats, the most dangerous question arrives. It is a whisper of possibility that feels like an accusation. What if I made a mistake? That whisper echoes louder than any shouted argument, more intensely than any moment of passion, because it is purely his. It is the core, uncompromised self finally speaking after years of being muffled by the sound of shared living. The married man understands at this moment that his envy of the single man is not rooted in lust or superficial desires, but in a profound ontological difference. The single man still owns his future entirely. The married man's future is mortgaged, not just financially, but spiritually, tethered to the trajectory of another soul. This feeling of quiet desperation, this specific heavy silence, is universal. But the context is always local. Tell me right now, in what city are you experiencing this truth? Where are you watching this realization unfold? Then Nietzsche would say that this midnight anxiety is the spirit trying to rebel against the domestication project that society has successfully executed. We were promised that this domestication, this surrender of the self, was the necessary price of maturity, the glorious sacrifice for the sake of companionship. But what if the price paid was the death of your highest potential? The single man, by refusing to merge, maintains a self-sovereignty that is terrifying to the established order. He remains an independent variable in the equation of civilization. He is an outlier, a wild card, and in his continued existence, he exposes the comfortable fragility of the married man's supposed stability. The stability is real, yes, but it came at the cost of dynamism. Nietzsche asked us to live a life that we would willingly repeat eternally. The married man, stuck in the domestic routine, knows he has failed this test. He fears the eternal recurrence of trivial negotiations and predictable outcomes, whereas the single man, even in his loneliness, still holds the promise of the spectacular unknown, the possibility of a radical transformation that a shared existence forbids. This leads us to the final, devastating conclusion about the societal glorification of sacrifice and why it targets autonomy specifically. Society does not glorify sacrifice because it makes individuals better. Society glorifies sacrifice because it makes individuals manageable. Think about the structure of modern civilization. It requires reliable workers, stable economies, and citizens who prioritize order over chaotic creativity. Who provides this stability? The person whose stability is tied to the security of others. The married man is the ultimate tool of societal order. His commitment to the mortgage, the kids' schooling, the shared future means he will not take radical risks. He will not walk away from the steady job to pursue a philosophical breakthrough or an artistic obsession. He cannot afford the magnificent failure that often precedes great triumph. His life is anchored by obligation, which is precisely why society rewards him with approval, tax breaks, and the designation of responsible adult. The single man, particularly the one who consciously chooses non-conformity, possesses the dangerous freedom of having nothing to lose but his own time. He can burn his savings on a passion project. He can travel to a volatile region seeking truth. He can spend 10 years writing a book that might never be published because his failure only impacts himself. This is the freedom of the philosopher, the artist, the radical thinker, the one who dares to become an Übermensch, the one who creates his own values. And society fears the Übermensch because he cannot be controlled by common morality or conventional rewards. The envy the married man feels is the echo of his own suppressed will to power. He remembers the intensity of his own desires, the singular ambition he once harbored, before he agreed to dilute it. He traded the possibility of being a towering genius for the certainty of being a good provider. He traded the terrifying ascent of the mountain for the comfortable conformity of the valley. And when he sees the single man still climbing, and still dealing with the dangerous solitude of high altitudes, the married man doesn't feel pity. He feels the profound, stabbing recognition of the life he surrendered. This surrender is often internalized as nobility. The married man tells himself, and is told by culture, that this compromise is the peak of human virtue. Sacrifice for the family becomes the sacred mantra, but Nietzsche's philosophy rips this veneer away. True virtue is self-overcoming and honesty, not compromise and self-denial. The man who sacrifices his highest aspiration for comfort is not noble. He is the last man, the one who values ease and warmth over greatness and danger. The single man lives outside this moral framework of mandatory compromise. He does not require approval for his expenditure of time or emotional energy. He avoids the deep, continuous psychic drain that comes from constantly negotiating reality with another person. Imagine the simple act of thinking. For the married man, even mental space is negotiated. He must factor in interruptions, anticipate shared concerns, and ensure his inner world does not disrupt the delicate balance of the shared household. The single man can sink into deep work for 12 hours uninterrupted, his mind accountable only to the project at hand. That uninterrupted mental bandwidth is an immense, unquantifiable advantage in the pursuit of any great endeavor. The married man envies the ability to think without consulting a committee of two. Furthermore, the married man must confront the lie of identity congruence. Marriage requires him to function as half of a unit, and where the pronoun we replaces the pronoun I. This substitution is mandatory, psychological, and ultimately destructive to the differentiated self. The single man retains his sharp edges, his eccentricities, the parts of him that are strange and difficult and magnificent. These are often the very parts that must be sanded down, hidden, or repressed to fit smoothly into a domestic partnership. The married man becomes generalized, a serviceable model of a husband. The single man remains specific, unique, and therefore potentially great. The married man knows, deep down, that he cannot reclaim the self he buried. That single identity is gone, sealed beneath years of joint decisions and interwoven history. It is a death he cannot undo. The single man, however, is a living monument to the possibility that the self can remain intact, that the personal project can remain the highest priority, that one's own freedom is not a youthful luxury, but a lifelong necessity. When the married man sees this unbroken chain of self-sovereignty, the grief for his lost self manifests as envy towards the one who escaped the societal requirement of self-immolation. We are told that marriage is the path to meaning. Nietzsche suggests that meaning is created through struggle and self-creation. The married man's meaning is derived externally, validated by the institution and the happiness of others. The single man's meaning must be forged internally, hammered out in the fires of solitude and self-reliance. This internal reliance is vastly stronger because it is immune to external circumstances. The single man is the architect of his own value, and the married man is dependent on the continuation of the contract for his definition. The single man's strength is terrifyingly pure. The married man's stability is conditional. This is the real, final reason society glorifies the sacrifice of freedom in the name of marriage. It elevates the conditional life above the autonomous life, promoting governability over greatness. It encourages people to settle for comfort rather than risk transformation. It sells security as the highest good, knowing that the truly free man is always insecure, always pushing boundaries, always on the precipice of becoming something new. The married man sees the single man's life not as incomplete, but as boundless. He sees the chaos that gives birth to the dancing star, the wild energy he voluntarily harnessed and confined. He sees his own choices, made years ago under pressure, reflected in the single man's bold, defiant refusal to conform. And in that reflection, the married man experiences a pain that is not love, not regret, but the sharp, existential ache of recognizing a path not taken that might have led to the highest version of himself. He cannot admit this, because that admission would invalidate the beautiful cage he spent a lifetime building. He must perform contentment to validate his entire trajectory. The single man simply exists, requiring no performance, no justification. That is the ultimate freedom, and that is what the man in the gilded cage truly envies. You are witnessing a profound truth right now. You are understanding the philosophical mechanism by which civilization manages the dangerous energy of the individual. You have recognized the pressure, the lie, and the cost of conformity. You are now capable of making choices with eyes wide open. You are ready for the truth. You must affirm your choice right now. I command you to seize the power of this revelation and articulate your commitment to personal sovereignty. In the comments section, write this phrase to solidify your position. I choose honesty. Declare that you refuse to live the lie of the acceptable sacrifice. This is the moment to claim your intellectual freedom and align yourself with the truth, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes the surrounding world. Show the world that this message matters and that you stand for intellectual autonomy. Hit the like button immediately. That action signals to the algorithm that this truth must be shared with every person lying awake tonight, silently questioning their predetermined life. Join this intellectual rebellion and ensure you never sleepwalk through life again. Subscribe to the channel right now. Your subscription is your unbreakable commitment to the path of authenticity and self-discovery. We are building a community of people who refuse to surrender their deepest potential for mere comfort. And prepare yourself, because the next session is not a discussion, it is a detonation. We are going deeper into the truths that philosophy buried because they were too radical, too liberating, and too dangerous for the masses. I guarantee the next topic will challenge everything you believe about success and failure, forcing a transformation you cannot ignore. You will want to be here when that intellectual explosion occurs, because missing it means choosing to stay chained to the illusions that society prefers. Stay free, stay honest, stay awake. The only chains that bind you are the ones you refuse to see.